strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal? That was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Ryder.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Roundtable. And we are being joined by Lee Groves from ringtv.com and CompuBox. Lee, great to have you back. It's been a while.
Great to be back.
And all the way from across the pond, we got Danny Glover from Fight Fan TV.
Hello.
And we got Hot Boxing Minute. Jeff, what's going on, brother? And as always,
another
man,
beautiful day.
Yep. Another one. So let's jump right in. Canelo Alvarez versus John Ryder this past Saturday. Pretty one-sided affair, but, you know, a lot of people were critical of Canelo Alvarez. They expected him to get the stoppage. He did not get the stoppage. Now a lot of people are saying that maybe he's got one foot out the door. He's slipping a little bit. Lee, what did you think of the performance? And is this criticism of Canelo justified? Were you expecting the knockout?
I was not expecting that. If there was going to be a knockout, I expected it to be in the later rounds because John Ryder has a history of being a tough guy. He's a southpaw. He's gritty. He's determined. I expected the fight to go a lot of rounds. Statistically speaking, Canelo did not show many signs of slippage in that he's always been a low volume, high accuracy guy. And against Ryder, he averaged 38 punches a round, which is right around his norm. He landed 46% of his power shots, which is around his norm. And his defensive numbers were very good, actually. But I think the perception that he's slipping, you know, he's winning, but not as brilliantly as was the case in his previous fights. For instance, a prime Canelo, I think, would have found a way to finish Ryder after breaking his nose and scoring a knockdown in the 5th round. Ryder was ready to go. And Alvarez had previously been known as a guy who starts slow but finishes quickly. He gets stronger as the fight goes on. You look at the fights with Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Kovalev. He comes on fast in the later rounds. But here, you know, he never got out of first gear against Bivol. And he slowed down in the later rounds against Triple G and against Ryder. I think the perception that he's slowing down is not statistical; it's aesthetics. He's just not doing things the way that we're used to seeing him do it. And you know, really, there's every reason to think that Father Time is starting to tighten its grip around him because Alvarez is going to turn 33 in July. He's had 63 professional fights. He's had 472 professional rounds. Coming into last weekend's fight, he had been a professional fighter, get this, for 53.4% of his lifetime. That's a lot of wear and tear. But does that mean he's totally shot? No, far from it. I think he still has enough to beat a lot of guys. But right now, he's kind of painted into a corner when it comes to the guys that he's going to fight next. He's an undisputed champion. He has 4 different mandatories to tend to. Ryder was one of them. He's out of the way now. Demetrius, David Benevidez is the WBC secondary champion. David Morrell is the WBA's secondary title holder. Demetrius Andrade is the #1 contender in the WBO. A Cuban named William Skull is listed as the #1 guy in the IBF. And he has to fulfill these mandatories in order to stay undisputed. Jermell Charlo, if he ever fights again, he wants to fight Canelo. So his dance card is pretty filled up. But I could see from both directions. There is reason to think that he is getting older, but there's also statistical reasons to think that he's as good as he ever was.
Gotcha. D-Style, do you agree with Lee at all here, or what are your thoughts? Do you have your own individual
well, here's
opinion?
what I'll say. I do agree with a lot of what he's saying. I think we gotta this is like an onion. You gotta like peel it off of different layers, right? So for any other fighter, would this have been a good performance? I mean, you could say he performed better against Ryder than Callum Smith did. Some people feel he beat Callum Smith, right? Like you could probably say this is the most decisive Ryder's ever been beat, right? All his other losses were competitive or like he was in the fight. Even if you think Jacobs won, even Ryder got the decision, but even if you feel Jacobs won, it was a competitive fight against a really good fighter in Danny Jacobs, right? So this is the most clear loss, in my opinion, that Ryder, you could argue, ever had. I know there was that stoppage, but if you go back and research and look at it, a lot of people don't even like that stoppage. They think it's a horrible stoppage. But let's say it's the second best anybody's ever beaten Ryder. However, as we keep peeling the onion, right, we get to the raw part of, but we're comparing Canelo to Canelo, right? And for Canelo, this just was not good enough. Remember, let's go by Canelo's own logic. If I lose to Ryder, I'm out of the sport. A loss to Ryder meant he was going to retire from boxing. That's how confident he was in this win, right? And I think he expected for himself. He looked disappointed after the fight. I think he wanted the knockout. Maybe he was looking for it too much. So I do agree that there's some slippage. I think that's going to dawn on him a little bit. But here's a key thing I think I want people to understand. All great fighters throughout history, and I believe Canelo is a great fighter, adapted accordingly, right? When people saw slippage, they adapted accordingly. Maybe they gave up a little bit on the being exciting part and concentrated more on the cerebral part. And that's probably what Canelo's going to have to do. And he's going to have to, if you want to, because a lot of people talk very highly of Canelo, right? So if Canelo's a great fighter, we think he is. If he's greatness personified, then Canelo's going to go into some fights with slippage, quote unquote, past his prime, maybe even as an underdog or as in 50-50 fights. And if he's the great fighter a lot of us believe he is, he's going to come out on top and he's going to win those fights. He's going to find a way, as a great veteran with all that experience, he's going to find a way to win those fights. So I think that that's the phase of his career that he's entering right now. He's going to enter a more cerebral, right, part of his and phase of his career. And I do think that's going to add to his legacy moving forward. Because now if people see slippage and he goes in there with Benevidez and then he comes out and he beats Benevidez, it looks more impressive that he beat Benevidez with slippage than if people still thought he was in his prime, right? So that's the phase he's entering, okay? A lot of great fighters throughout the history of boxing were way past their best when they did a lot of their best stuff, right? And if that's where Canelo's at, and if he's the great fighter I believe he is, he will come out on top even with his physical prime leaving him. That's what I think.
Danny, you're familiar with John Ryder. You know his career very well. Were you surprised at all that he went the distance? Because you guys over there, guys all said that Ryder was a tough cookie and this was a possible outcome.
Yeah, no, not surprised. I did think he possibly would have got stopped due to the altitude and the heat, because I know he hasn't fought in conditions like that. But I knew that he was tough Hence, he was able to arguably beat Callum Smith, who we know is a massive puncher in the super middleweight and light heavyweight division. The only other person who beat John Ryder convincingly was Billy Joe. That was back in the day for the British title as well. I don't think most people probably forgot that one as well. But Canelo, you have to remember, he did start off as a welterweight. So, yes, he does have big power, but there are guys who are naturally super middleweights, and light heavyweights who will be able to take Canelo's power at the end of the day. And as the guy said at first, the first guy talking, he said that Canelo is not a high volume puncher, so his output is not as high as a lot of fighters. So he does look for the one hit quitter a lot of the times. Hence, especially since he's sort of punched Callum Smith's arm off, he's been looking for that one shot a lot, and that's what ultimately was his downfall against Dimitri Bivol, because he tends to just try to look for the one hit finisher rather than try to grind and combinate shots down the stretch and break guys down, which that's why another reason why people are probably able to take the shots more if they're able to weather a bit of the storm.
Gotcha. Jeff, what were your thoughts on the performance? Were you surprised that Ryder made it to the end?
Honestly, in the build-up to the fight, I had thought Ryder was going to get stopped. I've watched Ryder as his progression through the years, and I know he was a tough dude. They call him the gorilla. But, I was wrong on that one. I was not shocked that he didn't get the stoppage, though. Ryder's a tough dude. When I was there, it looked to me like he did it for the fans to fight. As I'm sitting there getting – the guy next to me could barely speak English. He's buying me beers the whole fight. I'm like, oh, Canelo's doing this Mexican style for the Mexicans. Like, that's what I was thinking in my head. He's been criticized in the past for not fighting like a Mexican. And mind you, when I hear Mexicans say this, I don't know what that means because I'm not Mexican. But to the certain degree, I felt like he didn't want to give them an all-action bloody slugfest. I think about what fighters look like when they start to fade and they lose the ability to, like, the motor to throw punches or their foot movement. But that defensive awareness and slickness, that usually doesn't fade with time. Like guys like Floyd Mayweather, like Willie Pep, or take Bernard Hopkins, Archie Moore, whatever have you. Even at the end of their career, they were defensively responsible. It looked like Canelo was like, I'm going to stand in front of this dude and just give the fans a nasty little slugfest. And then I turned on the feeds as I'm, taking the trip back home, and I'm seeing all the blowback, and everyone was like, Canelo's faded, he's washed. And it's beyond my comprehension. Floyd can go the whole distance with Manny and Andre Berto, but nobody calls him washed. David Benevidez goes the whole distance with Caleb Plant. No one calls him washed. Jermell Charlo goes the whole distance with Juan Macias Montiel. No one calls him washed. Has Canelo faded at 32 years old, fighting since he was 15 with 60-plus pro fights? Clearly, there's going to be some diminishment, but even a faded Canelo is better than most of the game. That's just being objective about it. I still think he can beat most of the people in 168. Ultimately, he has to get in the ring to find out, but I don't think Canelo's washed it all. And John Ryder, as much as I was surprised that he managed to survive the whole fight, hats off to him, because when he got knocked out in that fifth round, he was looking in his corner and you could see the gears in his head. Like, I could walk away with a 7-figure payday and just finish it here. He got up and duked it out. And John Ryder's a tough dude. But, yeah, I think Canelo's still a very, very feasible elite level fighter. A little bit of diminishment, sure. But washed, not by any means, no.
So since you were there, Jeff, let me ask you this. What was the overall atmosphere after the fight? Were the fans satisfied with the performance? Did you notice anyone kind of having a look?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I've seen people saying that I heard booing, and I'm like, what were you talking about?
Really?
People will legit tell me, say they heard booing, and I'm like, what, on TV? What do you I was there. It was madness. Like, what do you mean? What booing did you hear? And then they shut up, or they're like, let me tell you, I was there in Guadalajara, a Filipino who doesn't speak Spanish. I'm seeing Canelo gas stations, convenience stores, energy drinks in the stores, and alcoholic beverages with Canelo's face on it. I've never seen anything like that. Maybe people have gone to Japan and seen Naiwa Inoue, to the UK and seen Anthony Joshua on the Hugo Boss billboard. I've never seen that. You know, in America, we're so divided in our boxing views, and boxing is such a small niche sport. It's really inexplainable to be on the ground and see just a whole city that loves this dude. He's got a statue in the damn city, you know? So, no, the crowd was loving it. And I think people wanted the knockout too, but they were loving the back and forth action, and nobody walked away from it like, oh, no. No, it was awesome. It was like a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what? I've a lot of people, like friends, family of mine that aren't analytical and aren't assessing if Canelo's on the slide, and like they just watch fights. You know, like they enjoyed the fight. They said it was a good scrap. They said they were throwing
It
some
was a
chudazos
scrappy
in there. Like
affair.
they enjoyed it.
To me, it looked like Canelo was doing it on purpose. Like, why is Canelo just standing in front of him? Why is he not doing the shoulder roll and like what? But you know, I don't suspect that's not something a fighter doesn't lose their defensive awareness as they get older. They lose the ability to throw punches consistently for 12 rounds, or their feet get a little slow. But even at 45, you could see, you know, Bernard Hopkins was still able to shell up, and James Toney. You don't lose that ability. He sat there on purpose just to give the fans a slugfest. And then stylistically with Ryder was throwing with Canelo, and every time Ryder would get a little bit pushed, he would go right forward because he knew you can't let Canelo go forward on you. So Ryder was smart enough to say, hey, win, lose, or draw, I've got to stay in his chest and stay pressing against him. Because if I press backwards, I'm screwed.
Another thing too, Jeff, is a lot of people were saying, I was hearing analysts say this, that even though the ring was announced at 18 foot, some people were saying it was like 16 foot. It looked like really, really tiny. They've never seen a ring that small. Did you notice that when you were there, that the ring looked really, really unusually small?
It looked small to me. When I saw the announcement that it was 18-18, I was like, is that what an 18-18 looks like? Yeah. But I was kind of a little bit far away. I wouldn't say it was nosebleed, but I was pretty far. It looked small to me.
Okay. So the $1 million question now is, what is Canelo Alvarez going to do next? There's a lot of rumors going on out there. A lot of people are saying that they feel as though the Bivol fight is not going to happen. Some people even think the Benevidez fight might be next. I'm even hearing him possibly going up to cruiserweight and fighting Badu Jack. Jermell Charlo has been thrown in there. So this is going to be a two-part question. Who do you guys think will be next? And with this version of Canelo Alvarez that we saw this past Saturday, would he beat a David Benevidez or a Dimitri Bivol? We're going to start with you, Danny.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Basically, what's next for Canelo, and with this version of Canelo that we saw this past Saturday, how would he fare against a David Benevidez or a Dimitri Bivol?
Well, Dimitri Bivol, I just think stylistically, it's just not the right matchup for him, whether it's 175 or 168. David Benevidez, I've said for 2 years, even though especially 2 years ago, a lot of people disagreed with me. I just said that I think that David Benevidez beats Canelo on points, because normally, historically, the way to beat Canelo is usually with slick skills, i.e. Mayweather, Lara, Trout, and Bivol. But with David Benevidez, I think, especially nowadays, especially over the last 18 months, that Benevidez will beat Canelo via work rate, because Canelo's work rate so low and Benavidez's work rate so high, especially with the punches in bunches and combinations. And also, when you look at the Dimitri Bivol fight, yes, it was skill that beat Canelo, but when you look at what he was doing also, it was mainly the combinations of the work rate, which was actually racking up the points and racking up the CompuBox numbers to beat Canelo. So Dimitri Bivol kind of used both methods, and I think that in Benavidez's case, he's just going to have too much youth and too much high work rate for Canelo to be able to keep up with him, especially if he's not able to, land this one-hit wonder, which doesn't seem to be working so much. And so far, Benavidez has shown that he's able to take a decent enough shot and come forward and still be fighting. So Bivol, I'd stay away from it anyway. And Benavidez, I want to see that one next. And I think David beats him on points, because Canelo's always shown a good chin. The only time I ever saw him rocked was against Miguel Cotto's brother, but he was very young then. Other than that, he's always seemed sturdy, but his work rate is depleting a lot. And I know that on his box rec, it says that he's had 63 fights, but there's also another 9 unofficial fights, which he had down in Mexico as a youth. So you're looking at about 72, 71 professional fights all in total. There's a lot of mileage in this day and age of boxing when you think about it.
Okay. Lee, who do you think's gonna get the golden ticket next, man? And do you think that if it is a Benevidez or a Bivol, how does this version of Canelo match up?
If Canelo has his way, of course it's going to be Bivol, and it's going to be at 175 pounds, because I think that one, he wants to avenge the previous loss, and he wants to do it at 175, Bivol's weight. And you got to admire a guy who loses decisively to a guy and then makes it known that that's the guy he wants to go after next. And he gets to call his shots. He's the biggest moneymaker in the sport. He can call his shots. And if that shot is Bivol, Bivol won the fight, so I think that Bivol, when he says he wants the fight at 168 for Canelo's belts, he has the right to say that because I think he decisively beat Canelo. My solution is, okay, let's have the fight at 168, have all of Canelo's belts be on the line, and have Bivol's belt on the line. And there is a precedent for that. When Sugar Ray Leonard fought Donnie Lalonde in 1988, the fight was at 168. It was the inaugural WBC super middleweight title bout. And since Lalonde was the WBC 175-pound champion, his belt was on the line. And Sugar Ray Leonard won the fight, and he won his 4th and 5th divisional belts on the same night. So only 3 days after Thomas Hearns became the first 5-division champion by winning the vacant, I think, WBO super middleweight title. So Canelo always fights best when he's aiming for another man's championship. That's why he wants the fight at 175. If he had it, that's how he motivates himself. He's a long-term champion, but he always wants to go after other men's crowns. So as far as who he should fight next, I think Benevidez is the perfect fight for September. Mexican versus Mexican extraction, Mexican-American. It's an action fight. It's the perfect style matchup for those who want action. And I agree with Danny Glover when he says that Benevidez is going to win because of his work rate. And not only that, he gets stronger as the rounds go on. And Canelo gets weaker now as the rounds go on. And Benevidez really has the style to pile up the punishment after round 6. So I would favor Benevidez and also Bivol. And another player in the game is the secondary champion David Morrell. He's taller than Bivol. He's longer than Bivol. He hits harder than Bivol, and he's a southpaw on top of that. And he's looked sensational in his last several fights. He's looked sensational throughout his entire career. Now, he's only had 9 professional fights. It's insane for a guy with 9 professional fights to take on a guy who's had between 63 and 72 professional fights. But Morrell has looked that good. I think he should be in the conversation. I don't think it's going to happen, but he should be in the conversation.
Do you think when he sits down with his team, though, Lee, you think they'll try to steer him away from Bivol, maybe advise him to stay away from Bivol? Do you think that's a possibility? Because I'm kind of getting the sense that they may not want to go right back into that fight. Maybe Canelo does, but I don't think the team does. I'm just getting some vibes from the team that they don't want to do it. Do you think that may affect his next decision?
I hope so, because Bivol is all wrong for him. I remember when Smitty and I were talking on our In This Corner of the podcast on Fight about this fight. We basically said we came just short of saying Bivol was going to win, but we went with Canelo by decision because you always go with the guy you know versus the guy that you don't know. In that situation, it was Bivol's first big fight under the lights. He's fighting a superstar in Canelo. It's in Las Vegas. Canelo has gotten the benefit of the doubt from the judges in Vegas. So even if he does win, we didn't trust the judges. Well, guess what? It almost happened. He won 10 rounds, and yet he won 15-13, So, and the first 4 rounds were 40-36 shutout, when most people thought that Bivol was ahead 3 rounds to 1 or 4 rounds to 0 even. So it almost came to pass. But Bivol showed that he had the speed, the discipline, the jab, the IQ to hang with Canelo and to impose his plan, and also take away the one thing that separates Canelo from everybody else, and that's accuracy. When you take a man's accuracy away and he's a low volume puncher, he cannot possibly win on points. And Bivol has the formula, and he would likely do it again. At least with Benevidez, he's going to be right there. He is going to be there for Canelo to exchange with. I don't know whether it's a good idea for Canelo to exchange with Benevidez, but at least he's going to be there. So, Canelo's in a corner, and the guys that he may be facing, they have as good a chance as any of actually beating him, and we wouldn't be saying that 18 months ago.
Gotcha. Shout out to Nando Lamas with the $4.99 super chat. He says, Spence or the Charlos are the biggest money fights for Canelo. They bring their own fans, unlike Bivol or Benevidez. Tank Ryan is proof of concept. I don't know about that. I think that Benevidez fight's probably the biggest fight in the division, in my opinion, but we can agree to disagree on that one. All right. Jeff, you got a magic wand here. You could wave it, and you can decide who Canelo fights next. What do you think?
I think he should totally do an about face on the Bivol idea. I mean, movers are clearly not his strong point, as was the case in his history against that first fight with Bivol, Arislani Lara, Floyd Mayweather. If they've got feet, they're gonna give him problems. In the build-up to the Canelo Bivol first fight, what Lee said, I had almost the same exact prediction. I honestly said everything short of Bivol would win, and I caught hell from my community for that. Lots of videos, they were like, "This is another Jeroboam." I'm like, "I'm telling you, this guy's different." And I assumed that Canelo was going to win because of Judge tomfoolery in Las Vegas, being he's the money guy. When Bivol won, I was not surprised at all. I don't think stylistically he wants any part of Bivol. Maybe he doesn't, but he shouldn't want any part of Bivol. And it's messed up because he's in that position now where the crown is just ultimately heavy. He can do nothing correct. Mayweather was there. Oscar De La Hoya is there. Mike Tyson was there. Julio Cesar Chavez was there. There is nothing they can do correct. There's going to be at least half, if not more, the fans heavily criticizing whatever position he moves. He fights Bivol again, he's ducking Benevidez. He fights Benevidez, he's ducking Bivol. So, in my opinion, I think he should appease, those lovely American boxing fans who only know like 2 fighters and just go for the trifecta at PBC. Hit up. Get Benevidez, get Jermell Charlo, take, Demetrius Andrade, and just get them all done. Get it all over with. And leave 175 alone. Leave those big guys alone. That's just what I think. If I had the magic wand, his next fight is David Benevidez.
Would you go to it if it's in Vegas?
Yes.
I know you would. I knew the answer to that. I just wanted to hear you say it.
It's a tough fight because he's, as boxing minds, as critical boxing minds like a group of us would be, we can appreciate what he did against guys like a Triple G as a unified middleweight champion and still the face of that entire division. But the average boxing fan was very upset at that matchup. Why is he going for a tired old Triple G? that tired old Triple G would have been the best win on anybody in that division's whole career. But no, it's the standards are different when you're wearing the crown. And he lost to Bivol, and then he did the undisputed run in 11 months with a bunch of fighters most American boxing fans had never heard of, and that's on them. But yeah, David Benevidez next would be the fight, and that would be basically a 50-50 fight, if not slight favorite towards Benevidez.
Got you. D, what do you think happens next?
I'm going to be very honest. I think we're getting the Bivol fight next. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear. And I get it. You know what I mean? I do. It doesn't mean that he's not going to – look, he's in a good position where he can leverage Benevidez, Bivol, and kind of get a good deal out of them. Not that he's a big negotiator like that, but, you know, he has Benevidez's leverage on Bivol. Like, they're going to fight me at 175 and not I'll go fight this dude. You know what I mean? So I think that's definitely possible, and I think Bivol needs to understand that that's a real possibility, right? Here's the thing. We cannot go from, and I have a lot of respect for Andre Ward, but we can't go from Andre Ward live on ESPN telling everybody, well, the thing with Canelo, he always wants to get the advantage and bring guys down and blah, 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 blah. We can't go from that, from pundits saying Canelo's going to do something to get an advantage over Bivol. And when Canelo turns around and says, no, we're going to run it back at 175. I don't want any advantages. That's where we're going to fight. We can't go from that to, oh, see, now Canelo doesn't want that work at 168. Look, I mean, come on. Like at this point, he's going to fight Bivol again, and I think it's going to happen at 175. I honestly believe that, right? Is it the number one fight I want? No. I'm with Hot Minute. I'm with everybody else pretty much. I would prefer the Benevidez fight. But this isn't about what I want. This is about what I believe is going to happen. I think he's going to fight Bivol, and I'm going to say it right now. He's going to beat Bivol in the rematch. Right? So when Julio Cesar Chavez got out, okay, Randall gave him a boxing lesson, even dropped him in that first fight, right? And he wanted to run it back. Right? I'm sure people were telling, oh, Chavez, don't do it. He's all wrong for you. The jab, the surgeon. Like he dropped you. Like whatever, right? All right. He did the rematch now in very questionable circumstances, but he got the win, right? And then people were throwing stuff at Frankie Randolph for some reason. I don't advocate that, but nonetheless, he got his get back. Joe Joyce got destroyed. He got annihilated. He's going to get his get back. All I hear is, oh, you got to admire Joe Joyce. I mean, he's going to go back in there with a guy that, well, let's admire Canelo too. All right? Like, I get that there's going to be criticism. There might not be the fight you want. Too bad. It's the fight he wants. He wants to fight Bivol. All right? And let me ask you this. Just because it's not the fight you want, is it a bad fight? Is it not the more difficult fight?
On paper, yeah.
On paper, it's a more difficult fight for him, right?
I would say so, yeah.
I think he beats Bivol in the rematch. Here's why. First of all, it was very close on the judges' scorecards. Canelo wins. If he could squeak out one or two more rounds, that thing's a draw or a decision for Canelo. Controversial fashion, but it's there. On paper, it's not that crazy for him to win that rematch. A lot of people were confident that he could win the rematch, and then the Ryder fight happened. But I have to be honest, I was actually thinking about this. I think Ryder would give Bivol a pretty decent fight. I've seen Bivol with lesser opponents go the distance and look kind of human, right? So I don't know. And it's a completely different style to Bivol, right? And I believe Canelo's going to do the rematch. He intends on winning that rematch because it bothers him when he hears people say, okay, fans want to act like Adrian from Rocky. You can't win. And it bothers him, okay? Why do you want to fight him? Why, Canelo? Because I'm a fighter, okay? That's what I am. That is Canelo Alvarez, all right? He's a fighter. He wants to avenge his loss. He's a competitor. I do not expect anything less. I'm not shocked that Joe Joyce wants to run it back. I'm not shocked that Canelo wants to run it back. Okay, I'm not shocked when any dude wants to run it back. Chavez ran it back with Randall after Randall dropped him and gave him a boxing lesson, right? And he won the rematch. So let's not act like it's this crazy thing, right? Quintana gave Paul Williams a boxing lesson. He got his get back. Guys are allowed to get, okay, Joshua stopped in the 6th round. He got his get back against Andy Ruiz, right? Wilder got a beating in that second fight against Fury. And guess what? He still wanted to run it back despite that beating. And he took another beating, but he almost had him in that 4th round, didn't he? Right? So at the end of the day, we're going to get that fight. I would like to see the Benevidez fight. It is the easier fight, in my opinion, right? But I think he knows that fight's always going to be on the table. Bivol's never going to, quote-unquote, beat him up. He's going to outpoint him. That's what Bivol's going to do. And I think he's fine with that, and I think he's confident he could win the rematch. I'm going on record right now. I think Canelo beats him in the rematch.
Let me ask you this: if he does go to Bivol and he loses to Bivol, say it's wide, does that take any momentum away from the Benevidez fight, in your opinion, or you think it doesn't matter?
Shane Mosley lost the 2nd time to Vernon Forrest after he was stubborn. He wanted to run it back. Guess what? That rematch with De La Hoya still sold.
Yeah.
Because people knew Mosley De La Hoya is a good fight, right? Now, granted, that was a rematch. But I remember this. I remember De La Hoya, after he beat Fernando Vargas, they interviewed him. And this is literally, I remember his words like it was yesterday, right? Who do you want to fight next? He said, I want to fight Shane Mosley. Just because he lost to Forrest doesn't mean he's not a great fighter. He's still a great fighter, and I want to fight him again. Nothing like you guys still want. Look how much you're clamoring for the Benevidez fight right now. You already seen him lose. If he loses again, people are just gonna say, "Yeah, bad style matchup. Come back down and fight Benevidez." That's what's gonna happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, because then
similar to when Zab Judah lost to Carlos Baldemir, the Floyd fight still sold afterwards as well. And the thing is, I think with the Dimitri Bivol fight, I think that probably would happen next at 175, because I know Bivol wants to come down to 168, but he's not going to get it for undisputed anyway, because Mauricio Suleiman has blocked him by not allowing him to ever fight for the WBC at the moment. So he can't fight Beterbiev for the WBC, hence why that fight's not coming up. But even if he comes to 168, he won't be able to get Canelo's WBC down there anyway. So he might as well just take the rematch at 175, because he's been blocked. Even though he's been living out in Oxnard, California, his dad's Moldovan, his mum is from Kyrgyzstan. He was even born in
Kyrgyzstan.
So he moved to Russia when he was about 8 years old. So, but yeah, he's still been blocked for one reason or another, unfortunately. So the 168 dream is just not going to happen at the moment because Mauricio's blocked him.
Okay. So let's talk about this crazy topic. Monday morning, I woke up thinking that I was going to go to my boxing app and I would be able to read Fury versus Zhang is official. But lo and behold, when I went to my boxing app, what did I find? Joe Joyce activates the rematch clause with Zhang, and then that fight with Fury is down the tubes. Now, interestingly enough, we were hearing that the rematch clause stated that Joyce didn't have to fight Zhang in the very next fight. He could have had a fight in between. So the rematch clause was within 2 fights. And I suspected, and I was hearing that that's what they were trying to advise him to do, so they can get that Fury Zhang fight over the line and just say you can get him after, or you can get the winner, whatever. I'll probably get him after, but not going to get the winner because Fury would be fighting, in December. So you can get Zhang after, right? But Joyce was stubborn. He wanted it. He wants to jump right back in, and he feels that he could beat him. And I think a lot of people believe maybe he could too. Maybe a big question is, what would have happened if the eye didn't swell up? Right, so who knows? So start with you, D-Style. Did you think Joyce made the right decision, or do you think he should have let maybe Zhang fight Fury and have Fury possibly soften him up? Or if Zhang was to pull off the upset, you can go into the rematch with a WBC title shot, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. What do you think?
I think I never blame a fighter that wants to run it back, right? I never do, ever. I never say to a fighter, no, I don't want to see it. So if a fighter feels he could win that rematch, right, then he should have a right to exercise that if he wants to, right? As a fan, I wanted to see Zhang versus Fury. I prefer that fight. I thought, that would be huge for boxing, especially it'll introduce a whole new fan base in China, and it was going to be a big deal. But I always feel this way about fighters when they go to a rematch. It's really not about me. Like, it's not about what I want. They want to exercise that rematch, and he has every right to. I'm sure Joyce went to bed at night kicking himself, not feeling good about the beating he took, and he wants to right that wrong, right? You can't get revenge on somebody, right, by someone else beating them. You got to do it, right? Like he doesn't want a dude walking around on this planet knowing that he beat the shit out of him. He wants to get that get back, right? So I don't blame him for doing it. I see maybe the business side of it, the argument of, what, why not, see if he could beat Fury and then you could fight for the title. Makes total logical sense, but sometimes fighters aren't thinking logically. They're thinking with ego. They're thinking with pride, right? And I think that's what it is here. I think his pride is telling him, I need to right this wrong. And righting that wrong might be more important to him than the world championship at the moment. And I think that's why he's going that route. So I'm not going to get mad at Joe Joyce for exercising his rematch clause. And it's not that crazy that he wins the rematch. I'm not sure yet. I got to kind of think about it, but
yeah,
it's a pick 'em as of right now for me. So
it's funny you say that, because as fans, we become selfish and we think of what we want. And we don't really put ourselves in the fighter's shoes. We hear so many times when fighters are negotiating to get a fight done, oh, well, this guy should just shut up and take it. And we know that if we were in that same position and we were negotiating and we had people negotiating for us, we had hired people to negotiate for us, we would be looking for the best deal. So, we have to, and I think we don't have to, but I think we should kind of look at it from the fighter's perspective sometimes, even though I know a lot of times people are like, well, I'm a fan. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. Okay, you don't have to care about it, but you should at least try to understand why a fighter does what he does. And I think that was an excellent point you made about fighters, what goes on in their mind when they lose. They have egos, right? They have pride. And a big part of the identity of a fighter is his ego, is his pride. And once that is shattered, that's detrimental to a fighter. Right? He's never the same. He can't dominate. He can't be successful. So I thought that was an excellent point you made there. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that a little bit. Jeff, what do you think? Were you disappointed that we didn't get Zhang Fury, or do you understand Joe Joyce wanting that get back? Do you think that is just as good a fight in your opinion?
Well, I'm at the point now where anytime Fury is mentioned, I assume he's lying through his teeth. So I didn't really see any possibility in that fight actually happening. I don't know if $200 million from Saudi royal money is even enough to get Fury to, to agree to taking a fair share, because I'm sure he wants 180 million of that 200 million, but that's a whole different subject. I love that people like Canelo and Joe Joyce are still fighting for something bigger than money, because they're clearly fighting for pride. Yeah. They want to go back in the flames of somebody who kind of took that little strike from them. Joe Joyce wants to run it back with Zhilei Zhang after getting roughly dominated. Zhilei Zhang didn't have any problem at all finding a home for that straight left. And I was surprised that he broke his arm going into that fight. I saw Joe Joyce as kind of a snowball going downhill, gathering momentum and size, and he got totally stopped. He could have taken an easier path and gone up another sanctioning body list and fought, an Andy Ruiz, a Flip Ergovic, or a, Frank Sanchez or something. But he wants it back with Zhilei Zhang, and I don't knock him for it. After what happened in that first fight, all things considered, I don't know what he can do different, because head movement, it takes a bit of time to kind of get that ingrained in you, to just slightly move your head off that center line. Because Joe Joyce is definitely on that UK zombie boxing style. I'm just going to block all your shots with my chin, which is never really the smartest approach, but more power to him. I'm sure it's going to be a fun, entertaining fight if they run it back again. In a dream, they would do it in the Bird Box in Beijing or something in front of a sold-out stadium of ravenously hungry Chinese fans who want to see Zhilei Zhang, the new star that came out of left field in boxing. But yeah, I'm all for it. Run it back, and I'm down to watch Joe Joyce get smashed again.
Do you think it would have been different if Joe Joyce's eye wasn't swelled up like that? Because I got the sense that Zhang was kind of fading a tad bit, and Joe Joyce was starting to get into his rhythm a little bit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because
Joyce, he's one of those guys that gains momentum the longer he has to get warmed up, and he's more a volume puncher than a one hitter quitter type of fighter. And when you got explosive pop like Zhilei Zhang does, you're gonna fade out a little bit early. That fast twitch muscle comes at the expense of your cardio, the ability to explode like that. So we saw in that fight against Flip Ergovic, as the rounds went on, that 40-year-old heavyweight frame started to wear him down. I think if Joe Joyce were to survive in the later rounds, he'd definitely have a lot more luck. But it was crazy how clean he was. He was getting popped clean almost immediately with that straight left. Like, I don't know.
Lee, we've been told Joe Joyce has the bone density 6 times that of a regular human being, but unfortunately, it wasn't there for his eye. Will that bone density save him in the rematch? Do you think this is going to be any different? Your opinion?
I think it will be different. But before I talk about how I think the rematch is going to go, isn't it interesting that after scoring the biggest victory of his career against Joe Joyce, Zhang had absolutely no power to call his next shot? Now think about this. By beating Joyce, he became the WBO interim champion, meaning he became, in theory, one of Alexander Usyk's mandatories. But Usyk is not an option because he's mandated to defend next against Daniel Dubois. And then if a Dubois deal couldn't be worked out, he'd then have to negotiate with Filip Ergovic. So Zhang is third in line. That's not going to work. So then there's Tyson Fury, which you talked about at the top of the segment, who brought up Zhang's name as a potential opponent. Well, that's out too, because if you look at the WBC ratings, Deontay Wilder is Fury's mandatory challenger, and Andy Ruiz, who leaked on Instagram that he was going to fight Fury, he's number 2. Well, when you look for Zhilei Zhang's name in the WBC ratings, what do you see? The letters NA. NA stands for not available. Why? Because he's the WBO's interim champion. Okay, so he's out for the WBC. So if Usyk is out and if Fury is out, where can a 39-year-old guy go to get a good payday? That's right, Joe Joyce, the rematch, the man he just beat, but also the man who, as the loser of the fight, has the power to trigger the immediate rematch clause. Therefore, Zhang, a man so powerful that he is nicknamed Big Bang, had no juice when it comes to who he's going to fight next, where he's going to fight next, or whatever. It's a really terrible problem to have. But now, as far as the question of whether Joyce made a good decision by triggering the rematch clause, I say yes, it was a very good decision, because at the time the fight was stopped, as you said, Joe,
it's coming on.
He was coming on. And the reason why he got the swollen eye in the first place was because in the first couple of rounds, he was moving in the wrong direction. He was moving toward the left hand. It made it so easy for Zhang to connect with that left hand. And in those first 2 rounds, he connected often enough to raise the swelling around the eye. Now, starting in round 3, he started moving in the correct direction. And he started to throw in numbers that are more typical of Joe Joyce. And he was winning those rounds. I gave him rounds 3, 4, and 5. And I think if he had been uninjured and if he had started the fight moving in the correct direction, I think that he worked out the formula by which he could beat Zhang in the rematch. Now that when the rematch happens, he'll have 12 fresh rounds. He will have had 5+ rounds in the ring with him of experience to carry with him. All he has to do is move to his left, avoid Zhang's left hand, pepper him with combinations, build up points, and then take Zhang into the later rounds where he has a history of fading. And in those later rounds, I think that he either stops him or he wins a wide unanimous decision.
Yeah. Are you in agreement with me, Danny?
Yeah, I am, because what you also have to remember, with as Guy said, when Zhang was starting to fade, because the fast twitch muscles, it builds up lactic acid when you're 40 years old, 280 pounds. And remember, that fight ended in the 6th. So we was only really halfway through. Now, we know that Joe Joyce does get stronger, swollen eye or not. Persistence will beat resistance at the end of the day. So this is why Joe Joyce is feeling, all right, fair enough. I did get stopped by the doctor. But had I not been stopped by my eye, he's very confident within himself that he would have been able to grind down Zhang down the stretch, because even before the ref stopped the action and brought him over to the doctor for the second time, Zhang let off a big salvo barrage, and you could see he was breathing very heavily. And this is when Joe Joyce started, letting his hands go. But by then, the doctor brought him over. He asked him how many fingers. Joe Joyce actually got the numbers correct, but the doctor just said, "I'll whisper to the ref. I'll just stop it anyway." And so Joe Joyce is in his head. I know why he's thinking. Nah, I can stop. I've got to beat in this guy. Yeah, he's going to have a nice fast start because he's a better boxer than me and he's faster than me. But I feel that I've got the engine, and we know Joe Joyce's game is about the engine. It's kind of like as Lee said and I said about David Benevidez is why he's going to beat Canelo, because it's going to be the engine down the stretch, which is always going to take over at the end of the day. And so, as D-Style said, the run back, Joe Joyce will win that rematch, I believe.
I think so too. I'm picking him. Him. So we got some great news, some very exciting news, in my opinion. Eddie Hearn signs Regis Prograis and Andy Cruz, and it's rumored that he may even sign Subriel Matías. Right? These are 3 great signings, in my opinion. But there are some people that have been critical of the signings. Can the big fights happen if Regis Prograis is over with Eddie Hearn fighting on DAZN? Can the Josh Taylor fight happen? Can the Teofimo Lopez fight happen? Can the Ramirez fight happen? But I think a great fight that would eventually be down the line if Subriel Matías jumps on board. That would be a great fight, a great unification fight. And Bob Arum had said, and Eddie Hearn had said, yeah, we have no problem making big fights, crossing the street, doing co-promotions or working out deals. And we've seen it happen. We've seen Ramirez fight on DAZN before and then go right back to Top Rank. So I'm really not concerned about the matchups, but a lot of fans are. So the question I have for you guys is, did these fighters make the right move? Will they get the fights that they need? And will the fans get the fights that they want as a result of this deal? We'll start with you, Jeff.
I didn't have any problem with the decision he made to sign with Matchroom. I was kind of confused by all the blowback he was receiving online. I don't understand it personally. Top Rank, we already know what's going on with Jose Ramirez. Seems to be very hesitant to hop in the ring with Regis. That's between him, Regis, and Rick Mirrigan or whatever. Josh Taylor, if he wanted to run it back with Regis, I would think he would have already done so. He's had more than ample time since that first fight at the end of that tournament they had. You got the PBC option, which, who do they got? Rancis Bartolome, AB, and with Robert Easter or something. And you can see Jermell hasn't fought in like almost 2 years. Jermell hasn't fought in over a year. Errol, so he's got no reason to believe that they wouldn't shelf him. And then you've got Matchroom, who's got a lot of cool little foreign fighters that have a little bit of a buzz to the hardcore followers. Steve Spark, Liam Paro. He's got Montana Love, and I think the key clutch right there is that Subriel Matías acquisition. I think a lot of us are very intrigued by that because Subriel Matías is, I don't know if he's a sociopath or psychopath or what the correct word is, but he's different. Where Regis is definitely a spiteful fighter, Subriel he's missing a couple brain cells, man. That man is a monster. But I think that's a fun fight. Good little 50-50 fight. I'd still favor Regis, but I like the idea of them signing Regis. I'm all for it.
Yeah, good move. Danny, you think this was a good move for Regis Prograis? Do you think the big fights will happen?
I think that was an excellent move. I didn't know that there was any pushback. That might be stateside where the pushback was, because over here we was jumping for joy because we've kind of we like Regis Prograis, especially due to the fight with Josh Taylor, which was a fight of the year candidate and could have gone either way. So we like, and then we thought with Prograis, we was kind of feeling bad for him because he had that bad deal with Triller. And it was all going a bit funny. So we just wanted him to have a happy home because he was getting a bit of a raw deal. Then he had the sort of like motorbike accident on holiday. So he was having a bit of a raw deal. So we wanted him to, get some momentum. Now he's got a version of the world title again that he won. And then, we just want, and then so with Matchroom, obviously us being British, we're over the moon that Eddie Hearn's got him because, the big fights can be made because we've got a lot of light welterweights over here, 140-pounders, and Eddie Hearn's got a ton of matchups that he can match him up with. And remember, Prograis is 34 years old now, so it's not like he's a spring chicken. So Eddie can put him in big fights because Prograis ain't looking to really hang around. He's looking to unify and get busy at the end of the day. So I think it's a great acquisition, and the Matías signing as well. That's another great signing also. Eddie's on a bit of a roll now because he was having a bit of a bad time with Ben Shalom from Boxer hijacking all his fighters as of late. So now Eddie's getting some fighters of his own, some decent proper fighters. So it's a good time for Matchroom, I believe. So we're happy about Prograis. I think that the big fights are going to happen for him.
Then I want to ask you kind of an off-topic question, but it's kind of relative to this discussion and this topic. I've been watching boxing for almost 45 years, and in my years watching the sport, I've never seen fans get so tribal over networks, like this network versus that network. I've never seen it in any other sport either. I'd rather watch the Lakers on ESPN instead of TNT. Do you guys have that type of tribalism over there where, we hate the zone, we love Sky instead? Do you find that same type of back and forth over there in the UK?
Not as bad. But what it is I'd say misery likes company. So people, a lot of these casual fans, they're living in the attic of their grandmas. So they like to just go on Twitter. So a lot of these people have got voices now. So they'll start tweeting Eddie Hearn saying stuff they'd never be able to say back in the 90s or early 2000s. Or they'll say something, Frank Warren, you're done, you're over the hill, Queensbury finished. And then because Ben Shalom boxes the new kid on the block, purse beard side of the street. And a lot of that, the British fans are trying to adopt some of that culture from the American fans because we read Twitter, so people see little sound bites on Twitter, and a lot of these little armchair fans who probably only started watching boxing when AJ won the 2012 Olympics, now they just they need little sound bites, so they just follow what they see on Twitter and go with the narrative. So for instance, especially with Sky TV, because they've got a big machine behind them, they're able to push an agenda. And a lot of people who are not educated in boxing, who haven't watched boxing for 40 years like yourself, or for 35 years like myself, they're not going to be educated enough to make their own decisions and observe what is actually going on in the landscape. But I don't think it's as tribal as I've seen in America, where it's really but I think with America, the reason why it's more tribal is because you're kind of forced to have to pick a tribe because the pay-per-view is so high. You have to decide, where am I going to spend my $80 or my $95? Whereas over here, it's only £20. So you can buy a Queensbury card. You can, and then buy a matchroom card and a boxer card, all for £60, which is $70. So you can get all three networks. Whereas over in the States, if you buy PBC, ESPN, and DAZN, Golden Boy Promotions, you're looking at $250. So you're kind of forced to back a side. You're either gonna go with the New York Giants, or you're gonna go with the Los Angeles Raiders or something. You can't afford really to support all networks over in America.
Danny, I've spent over $1,000 watching boxing last year, and I'm probably on pace to do it again this year, maybe even more. It's a disgrace, isn't it? What a loser I am. Lee, do you like these moves? Do you like the Regis Prograis move? Are you a Debbie Downer like some of these other people on Twitter? I don't think you are, but I have to ask that question for the sake of the show. Are you disappointed at all in the signings?
When I first heard that Regis signed with Matchroom, I was a bit surprised because, of all the reasons, Top Rank had a lot of the big names over there, and it would have made sense if Regis's objective was to fight the biggest fights for the biggest money as soon as possible. I looked at some of the names over at DAZN. You got Richardson Hitchens, you got Liam Paro, you got Jack Catterall, Steve Spark, Montana Love, as was previously mentioned. Okay, I would pick Regis to beat all of them. And if the objective was to lengthen the reign and to make as much money from his championship reign as possible, that made sense. And then, more power to him. But my perspective started to shift a little bit when it was announced that the first fight of the deal was a June 17th fight against Paro in New Orleans. Now, okay, I think that was a big reason. That was one of the big reasons I think that Regis picked Matchroom, because if he had signed with Top Rank, he probably would have fought in New York or Las Vegas. And he would probably be treated more like the B side than the A side, because you got Jose Carlos Ramirez, and you got Teofimo Lopez, you got
Josh Taylor.
49 years of watching boxing, my brain's starting to lock. But Josh Taylor, he would probably be portrayed as the B side. But now that he signed with Matchroom, he is going to be portrayed as the A side, and he gets a hometown fight on top of that. And then when I heard that Subriel Matías was on the roster, I said, okay, there's the fight. There is the reason that would justify Regis Prograis signing with Matchroom. That's a terrific fight. A fight between two of the most dangerous guys in the 140-pound weight class. You got two aggressors. You got two high-volume guys. You got two big punchers and two titles on the line. Deuce is wild, you might say. I'll take that. That's good. So if the ultimate destination is to have a unification fight with Prograis and Matías, and then the winner of that fights the winner of the Top Rank round robin for an undisputed championship, okay, cool. I'll take that.
Lee, you said something very interesting. You said something very interesting about the A side, B side dynamic, right? One thing that Regis Prograis did say in a statement on why he did go with Matchroom was he said that over at Top Rank, I felt like I would be an employee, but over at Matchroom, I felt like a partner. So that kind of speaks to what you just said there about the A side, B side thing. So I thought that's spot on with that comment. D-Style, we've read all these tweets. People are acting like Regis Prograis pissed in their lemonade. We're not going to get the Ramirez fight. We're not going to get the Tszyu fight now. We got Ramirez's manager really putting Prograis on blast. What is this all about? What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Look, I thought this was a phenomenal deal. I think a narrative started with Regis that was started to get pushed out there. I think that's a sign that the manager did a really good job. I thought he did a phenomenal job because a lot of fans were following his narrative, right? But just know that whenever you're following the narrative of a manager, right? Just know that's that person's job to look after the well-being of his fighters, not of the sport, not of fighters that he's not signed to. Okay. Let's just dispel this notion that Regis had to sign with Top Rank in order to get the fights with top rank fighters, right? A lot of issues I have with this. One, let's say Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez was the champion, right? The WBC reigning champion when he went to Matchroom to have a unification fight with Hooker, all right? Over there on the zone. And a co-promoter was Top Rank. You look at the poster as Top Rank's logo, Matchroom's logo, all right? They did business back then, right? Not to mention Joe Hobie's interview. Well, I don't know what happened there. But Bobby, I'm basically we have no problem working with Matchroom. We have no problem working to make the fight happen. That should just get rid of the stupid narrative. The problem with Regis was not that he wasn't with Top Rank. The problem with Regis was that he didn't have a home. He didn't have a network. He didn't have a big-time player promoter. Now he does. He has that now. He's going to fight Paro for a first fight with Matchroom. It's going to happen right away. What is it, next month? Or right off the bat, boom, he's going to have a fight. We don't have to wait 6-7 months. 3-fight deal, the first fight's done right away, right? And he signed right on time, right when Matchroom has extended their deal with his own, right on time. That means that they're going to have money to offer, right? I believe Josh Taylor has one more fight with Top Rank, so it's possible that even if he's not with Top Rank, they can make the fight happen, a rematch with Josh Taylor. If the Ramirez fight, I don't think Ramirez is going to be with them forever. Eventually, that contract's going to run out. I believe it's 1 or 2 more fights. And even if he's still with Top Rank, they can still make the fight happen. Like, what exactly is Aaron going to do with Ramirez? Like, what's the plan? You think Aaron's just going to pay him a cool $500,000 to fight, fight some exhibitions fights forever? No, he's ready. He'll cash him out immediately. The Bobfather don't care. All right, he'll be like, nah, yeah, I think you should go over there and maybe fight Prograis. Go over there to Matchroom with Eddie, right? He will send him over there. It's not a problem. Like, Eddie's got money to play with. Subriel Matías is rumored, as Hot Boxing Minute mentioned, to go over to the zone. I think that's a better fight than the Ramirez fight. The Ramirez fight's not even a big fight anymore. He's not even a title holder. As Calix said the other day, it's not 2020 anymore. Like, we're in 2023. You're not that relevant anymore. Prograis doesn't need Ramirez. Prograis, if he fights Matia, that's a bigger fight. If he does a rematch with Tater, that's a bigger fight. Time will tell who made a better decision. I think Ramirez deciding to get married instead of fighting Zepeda for the belt was a worse business decision, right? Than any business decision Prograis has made, right? And then there's
happy life.
Yeah, pay me the $1 million and I'll fight Prograis. Yeah, you know what? We're good. I think Power will fight him. I think we'll rather say they'll probably save the mill for Josh Taylor in a rematch, right? We have other options, so I mean it's okay, all right. And then the other guy, the other guy with the management, what's his name again?
Oh, the guy that
Rick.
Rick.
No, yeah.
O'Hara David.
No, his name skipped my mind. His other fighter from Top Rank. He wanted to fight
Tszyu. Barboza.
Barboza's with Top Rank. He couldn't get the fight he wanted with Tszyu. And they're in the same promotional company.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's mad that he's not getting his fights. But Prograis had to sign with Top Rank. I mean, that is ridiculous. You sign with the promoter that's willing to promote you and willing to spend money on you. Eddie knows what he has. Eddie knows he's got in his this is the best 140-pounder at the least second best 140-pounder on the planet. Point blank, period. He knows what he's got. He's going to be willing to spend some money to do it. I like Prograis' move, and I ain't complaining. I'll be honest with you. I'm all for it. And we'll see where these guys go. But Tszyu wants out of Top Rank. He's got 2 fights maximum. Maybe you could do a fight with Tszyu. I mean, circumstances change, right? And one last thing, Top Rank wanted a fight deal. That's too long. Like I said, Taylor has 1 more fight. What if he signs a Top Rank and then Taylor goes somewhere else? I mean, things change. That's why you don't sign long-term contracts, because the landscape changes, right? The landscape changes. You don't sign long-term contracts. I like the deal. I'm all for it. And I think we're going to get some good fights for Prograis out of it.
Well, I have to say, America is truly the land of opportunity. In what other country can a fighter get knocked out, come back and move up a weight class, and take on a 40-year-old fighter for the full WBA title? In what other land is that possible? I just have to ask. Rolly Romero will be taking on Ismaael Barroso for the full WBA junior welterweight title this Saturday. How does this fight play out? Who wins? And does this even make sense? D-Style, go.
No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, at all. Like, first of all, how is Rolly even ranked to begin with?
He's actually not.
Well, don't you got to be like in line or something?
He must have been last minute ranked. Like when I looked at the April rankings, he wasn't. They must have just threw him in there like a couple weeks ago, right, Lee?
What happened to the good old days when like the guys have to be rated 1 and 2? Like when Mayweather moved up and Lascano fought Castillo for the vacant belt. Like, what happened to those days? Like, what are we doing? Rolly Romero? Rolly? Like, what? I just don't understand, bro. Like the guy loses, he moves up a weight class. It's like maybe Tank does have the golden touch. Knocks out Barrios. Barrios gets to move up to welterweight. He gets a pay-per-view fight with Keith Thurman. I mean, just right off the bait. I mean, good thing nobody vacated. They would have put that for a belt, right? Rolly Romero moves up after getting knocked out by Tank, and he's going to fight for a belt. I mean, you can't make this up. That's like they have to stop and be like, yeah, we can't do that. How about you two? We're going to call it an eliminator. We're going to get 2 other ranked guys. They're going to fight an eliminator, and then the winners can fight each other for the belt. Like, there's a simple solution to this, but they have to. It has to be for the vacant belt. They have to do it. Why do you have to do it? You can't have Paro and Prograis fight for it. They're about to fight. You can't put the belt for a line with them. At least, like Matchroom will pay the sanctioning fee. I'm just saying. You can't have, I don't know, Taylor. Just give it back to Taylor and let him fight Tszyu for it or something, right? You're telling me that there's no other option. There was some money moved in here. So like either there was a lot of money moved, all right, or somebody has naked pictures of somebody, right? One or the other, right? I don't know what PBC has on some of these sanctioning bodies. I don't know what it is, right? But Rolly Romero, bro, like I have like there's no rational way to explain this. There's no rational way for me to even if you told me, even if you paid me $100 to give you a devil's advocate argument, I can't come up with one to justify this. I couldn't do it. Okay. You get Crockett on. You could get anybody. You could get OJ's defense team on the case. They ain't going to be able to defend this one. They can't do it. It's not possible. Okay. Like it ain't possible at all. So I have no explanation to it. All I got to say is, as Calix had mentioned, and I think I agree with him, this has to be the worst title fight in the history of Showtime. The worst. If there's a worse one, I would love to. And that's why I'm glad Lee's going next. Maybe Lee knows of a title fight worse than this. Right? I'll pass it to Lee. I want to know.
Lee, it's amazing because Barroso is ranked number 1 by the WBA.
Yes.
And you just informed me that Romero has been instilled as the number 5 contender. And Romero, being ranked number 5, was going to get the shot at Julio over Barroso. And this is his first fight at 140.
Yeah.
Please do the best you can and help me make sense of this.
Well, originally the fight was supposed to be Puello versus Rolly Romero.
Correct.
And, you got to be happy for Ismaael Barroso. He's number 1, and he's getting the shot. He should have gotten the shot against Puello.
My point.
He was the former WBO gold champion. That's how he got there in the first place. And he hasn't done anything to lose that status. He's won 4 in a row. His last fight was a 4th-round knockout over Fernando Saucedo, a 75-fight veteran, 41 years old. Beat him up. Just basically beat him up. He deserves the shot. There was nothing he did that shouldn't have knocked him out of the number 1 spot. So why is Rolly getting the shot? Well, I think 2 words can explain it. Social media. Social media is a powerful tool, and Rolly knows how to use social media to get attention for himself. That attention means fans outside the boxing sphere, and fans outside the boxing sphere means bigger cash. That's why Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia got 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. Romero used social media and his gift for trash talk to talk himself into a pay-per-view fight with Gervonta Davis. And the fight was revived even after it was canceled because Rolly had charges on him. It was revived after the charges were dropped. He was there because he means money. Controversy creates cash. That's what Eric Bischoff called one of his books. He may be rude, he may be crude, but in today's age, crude and rude works. And here's a side story that I didn't know until earlier today. Romero could barely speak until he was 11 years old. He had a lisp. He had a speech impediment that caused kids to tease him. And now, like Bill Walton, he talks. He talks very well. And to further emphasize this point, in a story that I read earlier today, here's a quote from Raleigh about why he's getting this opportunity. He says, quote, "I'm Raleigh. I get special Raleigh privileges. I'm sorry if I'm getting a title shot, but I'm by far one of the most entertaining boxers in the sport. You don't want to give me title shots? Don't watch my fights." Well, I mean, I'm going to be watching, and because of that, I guess I get what I deserve, especially if he wins and he gets interviewed. So there you go. Now, as far as how the fight will turn out, I think Barroso, he's a volume punching southpaw. He's got power, especially to the body. He's much more technically sound than Raleigh, but that's a pretty low bar. And he's experienced. He outpointed Yves Ulisse as the B-side in 2019. It was a 12-round decision. It was seen as an upset. And I talked about the 4th-round KO against Fernando Saucedo. You can't ignore the fact that he's 40. You can't ignore the fact that Raleigh is 27. And although Raleigh hasn't fought in a year, Barroso hasn't fought in 266 days himself. And he's had many, many stretches of inactivity throughout his career, the longest of which was 31 months. Romero is also fighting his 3rd consecutive left-handed opponent. He stopped Anthony Yiggett in 7, and he lost to Tank in 6. And 2 of Barroso's 3 losses have come by KO. So I think the younger man will have the hand speed, and he'll have the reflexes. He'll take advantage of the one opening that he needs to turn the fight his way, and I think Raleigh's going to become champ.
Jeff, how pumped up are you for this fight, man? Are you going to cancel date night for this one? You're going to stay home and watch this one?
Man, you guys make me sick, man. You guys cannot acknowledge the greatest Afro-Cuban fighter that we've had since Kid Chocolate, Kid Gavilan, Kid Rolando Romero. You guys are visionless. This is Mr. Ropa Vieja, man. Rolando Romero, special. He's our special little. He's boxing's special little cousin with retardo power. That's Rolly Romero.
Whoa.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. My man is about to fight for the What Benefits Al Championship, 140 pounds against Ismaael Barroso, the hard-hitting Venezuelan with the body shot southpaw. I love it. This isn't a fight for the 140-pound WBA strap. This is the fight to see. This is the fight. The fight is going to be the fight afterwards. It's either going to be Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia for that big, huge, multiple paycheck fight. So whoever gets this fight, which is going to be Kid Rolando, who does he fight next is the question we need to be asking. Is it going to be Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia? That's what this setup is. Brown paper bags under the table all day long. Gotta love it. This is boxing. It's a wild, wild west / spider web of deceit and lies that we all love. But yeah, Rolando Romero, baby.
I'm thinking it's going to be Ryan. I was thinking that. I was thinking that all week. Like this, Ryan's going to get the shot at 140. This is his comeback fight.
Not like
Raleighville.
Rolly. Listen, there's very few fighters that legitimately pierce the veil of pop culture. Very few. I don't know.
Is Raleigh from the Cuban School of Boxing, Jeff?
No, he is from I started at 17 and just was born with that God-given strength, and I could make up for it with an orthodox boxing style. So he's not from the Cuban school, but he's redesigning the Cuban school. So Kid Chocolate is smiling down from the heavens like, that's my boy right there. Broly, he moves the needle nobody knows how the gods on Olympus decide which of these no personality having boxers are going to be chosen to become outside pop culture phenomenons. And how I decide is when my casual friends who don't even follow the sport, usually the amateurs I work with, the amateur boxers, because contrary to popular belief, these amateur boxers don't watch much boxing, but they will ask me, what's up with Rolly? And the way their face lights up and the way everyone's face lights up when you mention Rolly. That's why he gets these opportunities, because people know who Rolly is outside of the boxing space, and he moves the needle. He's Rolly. Sorry, y'all, but he's Rolly, and he's an attraction, and it's confounding, but I believe he's gonna beat Ismaael Barroso. Maybe Ismaael Barroso, finds it upon himself to find that grit, because I'm sure he's probably taking care of a small colony in a favela back home, but Rolly it's all the deck of cards is set up for Rolly to win this fight, to set up that next fight, when Tank gets off of his county paid vacation, or when Ryan Garcia decides he wants to fight for another big paycheck.
Yeah. Danny, are you guys going to be able to watch this over in the UK, or are you going to have to miss this one?
I'm not sure if it's on Fight TV, but one way or the other, I know that I'll be able to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You excited?
No. but what it is, Ismaael Barroso, I'm familiar with him, but it's like, I remember his prime. We're going back 7-8 years ago, because he beat my friend and old stablemate Kevin Mitchell back in 2015, but then he got knocked out the fight after by Anthony Crolla via a body shot back in 2016. So, he's 40 years old now. He hasn't had that many fights for someone his age. But yeah, as D-Style said, I don't know what kind of marketing machine Rolly's got behind him, because, he's just been knocked out. Footage of him recently, he got him dropped by John Ingram down the TMT gym. Like, surely it would have been like, oh, mate, this guy's curtains. But somehow he's got a shot. I expect Rolly to win. Ismaael seen better days, even though he's racked up a few wins lately. Well, not even lately, because he's been out of the ring for nearly a year now. But it's just like, yeah, this seems like a setup for me. I thought it was more of a setup so Tank can go up to 140 and claim a real belt, because even though they bill him as a free world champion, a lot of us hardcores and aficionados say, no, you're not. You're a one division world champ, because Reggie belts don't count. So to get rid of that talking point, he wants to go up to, he's done a 140 before against Mario Barrios, so he'll go up there, slap down Rolly again, and then get his second belt. Otherwise, I didn't even think about it being a comeback surge for Ryan Garcia, but that could also be a point. But I think it's more they're more going to save it for Tank, I think, because they're trying to make him the face of boxing. Because as D-Style said, Tank's knocking out guys and they're getting shots left, right, and center. So that also he can say, well, look, once I touch you, you're still blessed. You're still a brand name. So this goes towards his whole face of boxing promo talk. So yeah, but yeah, rubbish fight, but it is where it is, ain't it?
All right, last topic of the night. Tszyu is taking on Carlos Ocampo June 18th, and this is just 3 months after his fight in March with Tony Harrison. And it seems like he's really keeping busy while he's waiting for Jermell Charlo to heal up and get that, undisputed fight underway. He's been waiting a long time, and he's keeping busy. It seems like he's on pace to fight probably 3 times this year. So the big question I have is, I know a lot of times we love to see these fighters stay busy, and a lot of times we complain when they fight like once a year. But when you're in Tszyu's position and you're waiting for that undisputed fight, it's already been ordered. You're just waiting for the guy to come back from injury. Do you run the risk of kind of burning yourself out by being too active, possibly getting injured in the process? What do you think of this, Jeff? Do you think Tszyu's doing the right thing by keeping busy, or do you think he should kind of, maybe take a break here and wait for Jermell Charlo? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I think Tszyu is absolutely spot on with his decisions to stay busy. In an ideal world, if you're a professional fighter and it's really about building up a name and staying good at your craft, you want to be fighting at least 3 times a year, if not more, 3 to 5. Like you want to constantly stay in camp mode and constantly stay inside that ring. And Ocampo is a perfect opponent to fight. He's skilled, he's crafty, he doesn't have a lot of threatening pop, so he'll give up a good fight, but really shouldn't be anything that someone of Tszyu's skill set shouldn't be able to overcome. It might probably go the full distance because Ocampo's he's a sharp enough guy. He just doesn't have that elite level pop or that ability to stop a person. But I think Tszyu's on the right track, and it is the theater of the unexpected, being that it's boxing. So it could go all super sideways. Ocampo could land a lucky punch and end up derailing Tszyu's shot at the undisputed scrap with Jermell. I don't know what's going on with Jermell, but it definitely, the more busy the Tszyu stays, the more of an advantage, not an advantage, but the better it is on his side going into that fight with Jermell, because I heavily favored Jermell in their fight, but we saw what happened in that first fight with Tony Harrison and Jermell, and we saw how easily Tszyu dispatched of Tony Harrison. So, who knows what can happen in a rematch, or maybe Jermell vacates his belts and moves up. I don't know. But, yeah, I think it's a good choice, and I definitely heavily favor Tim in that matchup.
Do you like the strategy, Danny, of Tszyu keeping busy? He's got the fight already set as soon as Charlo comes back. It's been ordered already, so he doesn't have to keep busy, but he's just kind of sharpening the tools a little bit. Do you think this is the right move, the right strategy for Tszyu and his team?
Yeah, I think so, because you have to remember he fought Terrell Goucher in March 2022, and then he had a year out before he just beat Tony Harrison. So that was 12 months. So yes, he's having a quick turnaround now within 3 months, but it's not like he's had 3 back-to-back fights in quick succession. He had a year out before his last fight. So this is actually a good thing for him that he's had 1 fight now and he's getting a quick turnaround, because his turnaround for the Tony Harrison fight wasn't a quick turnaround. It was a long turnaround, but he still performed very well. So I think it'll be even better, because yes, when he beats Ocampo, because I don't see Ocampo having the power or anything to cause an upset or anything like that. So when he does get the Jermell Charlo fight, it's not like they're going to fight in, say, September. So it's not like he's going to be in 3 months' time where you're going to think, okay, you've done 2 back-to-back camps in quick succession, because it'll probably be by the end of the year. So then by then he would have probably had what? He'll probably have like a 5-6 month gap between the Ocampo fight and the Charlo fight. So I think that this is actually a good thing for him, to be fair.
Okay. D-Style, you like the move? You like him staying busy like this? Do you think it's too quick of a turnaround 3 months out?
I think it's perfect. I'll quote Glenn Jennings, the manager of Tszyu. right? Great win for us, mate. We are ready to get to work on Charlo. Let's hope he will be ready soon. We like to fight, not wait, right? So they wanted to fight him in June. Jermell is saying, I ain't ready. Let's do a rundown here, right? He beat Gachet. They do some negotiations. It didn't even have to get to the point of purse bid, like very smooth. Like they agreed to the fight. And then they asked Tszyu to wait a staggering 6+ months or something. Crazy, right? They announced the fight. I'm excited. Then I see the date. I'm like, January? Like what's going on over here, right? They made us wait. So waiting didn't work. He waited all that time for Jermell, and then they had to cancel the whole thing because Jermell got injured. And then he fights Harrison. Beats Harrison. He said, no problem, champ. Let me go take care of Harrison. This Harrison problem, people talking about trilogy, let me kill that shit right now. He goes over there, takes care of Harrison, destroys him, right? Great event over there in Sydney, Australia. And it says, say my motherfucking name. I'm ready to rock. Let's go. They're still not ready. Still not ready. Okay, fine. The moment this fight's announced, Jermell Charlo's on Instagram talking about fighting Canelo. How about, let's do undisputed versus undisputed. Undisputed versus undisputed. Let's do it. Like, okay, so you want to do undisputed versus undisputed. I'm assuming for September, that's when Canelo's going to fight next, right? People are leaving Benevidez in the altar. Like now they're for this fight. All of a sudden, no, Jermell, that's a fight to make all of a sudden, right? I see you guys, okay? I see you guys on Twitter. I see you, right? So what is Tim supposed to do? Just wait and see what Jermell's. If first of all, we're assuming Jermell's being truthful about the injury, right? That's assuming. Just wait around and see when Jermell gets better. What if Jermell gets injured again? What if Jermell just moves up? What if what we're all speculating happens? Jermell goes to 168, Jermell goes to 160, Spence goes to 154, right? What are those? What are the triplets all migrate one division up? What then? Well, what is Tim supposed to just wait around and do nothing? If it was up to me, Jermell would have already been stripped, right? He would have already been stripped, and you put the next best dude against not Ocampo, but a better opponent for Tszyu to fight for those belts. That's what I would do by now. Oh, but Batista, you can't do that. Jermell has done so much. Look, he's a fighting warrior. I know he is, but is he going to fight still? Can anybody tell me if Jermell is going to be fighting in his weight class again? Can anybody definitively tell me that? Because Tszyu doesn't know. Tim's not even sure. They asked him about it. He's like, I don't know. He's getting drunk at fights, getting drunk on live streams. I don't know what Jermell's going to do. They don't know. Oh, but he's done so much. The year Tom Brady got injured, yes, Tom Brady did so much for football, but they didn't pause the NFL season because this is a guy with 5 rings. You can't do that to him. You got to wait. Let him get better. Then we can continue the football season. That's not how it works, okay? But it's not what I want anyway. They're letting him keep the belts. No harm, no foul, whatever, right? He's keeping busy, and that's that. I mean, I think what's at risk is not him losing or getting injured, in my opinion. What's at risk, if anything, is the aura around Tszyu right now, right? If Tszyu struggles with Ocampo or looks human against Ocampo, the fight's not as marketable anymore because the fight became more intriguing to people. Almost everyone said after he beat Harrison, I wanted to see it before, but now I really want to see this Jermell fight, right? So I think there's some pressure for him to stop Ocampo and have a great performance and dominate him, so the aura of that fight is still intact, right? But that aura, keeping that aura and keeping the fight relevant, Tszyu's doing all the work right now. All of it. Okay. Right now, Jermell, I mean, it's kind of disrespectful for her to be calling out Canelo when this guy's been more than accommodating to you. waited for you. You got injured. He took care of Harrison. He's staying busy, okay, because he's waiting for you, right? Tim Tszyu, after his fight with Harrison, right, a reporter asked him, how does it feel to be a world champion now? And he said, nah, this ain't the real belt. The champ has the belt. I got to beat the champ for me to call myself a champion. So he's showing Jermell this respect. He wants to fight him, right? But he's over here. He's doing some other stuff. He's talking about going to 168 or a catch weight or 160 to fight Canelo. I don't know what the hell that's about. All right, maybe he was just drunk. I don't know. But to answer your question, I think Tim Tszyu is well in his rights, and it's the right decision to stay busy. He's going to stay sharp. And I'm very concerned for Jermell, who's going to be out of the ring for over a year, recovering from an injury. We all saw Canelo coming back from injury, maybe hesitating to throw the left hand. I think Jermell might have some reservations about that in his first fight with Tim, especially for the earlier rounds. And there's no rematch clause. And I'm wondering if they want to fight Tim without the rematch clause, especially now. But that's what I got.
Lee, let me ask you this. Will the ring strip Jermell Charlo of his belt if he's inactive for a straight year?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not part of the ratings panel.
You're not part of the ratings panel. Okay.
But as far as what will allow me to be 4 for 4 with the panel, I think it was a very good move. And as you said, we've long complained about how the top fighters don't fight often enough. And, so I like the fact that Tszyu is taking the bull by the horns and staying active. I mean, is he taking a risk? Of course. All boxing matches carry a measure of risk, but what is the ultimate objective? It's not just to fight Jermell Charlo for the Undisputed Championship. It's to win against Jermell Charlo for the Undisputed Championship. That's the goal. Now, coming into this year, what were the biggest disadvantages that Tszyu had when matching him up against Charlo? I think it's experience and quality of opposition. Now, by knocking out Tony Harrison, he beat a former world champion, as well as the only man to officially beat Charlo, right? Now, by taking on Ocampo, he's fighting a guy who gave Sebastian Fundora a pretty good go of it when Fundora was still undefeated. He's a volume puncher. He has 22 knockouts on his record, albeit against not so great fighters, but he has 22 knockouts. He presents a threat, a little bit of a threat, at least enough to make it interesting. A victory over Ocampo would give Tszyu even more experience. And, by the way, Charlo will have not, he hasn't fought in nearly a year, and by the time, and if the fight gets made, it will be like a year, 3 months, year, 4 months, year, 5 months. And one of the big knocks on Charlo is that he's a low volume guy. And you add in a year and a half of rust on top of that, he may be even a slower starter. And so I think that by staying active and by building his resume, he gives himself a better chance of grabbing the ultimate prize when he meets Charlo for the Undisputed Championship. So, yes, I agree with the move as a fan and as an observer of the sport. I like what he's doing. The more we see of Tim Tszyu, the better. And that's all I got to say about that.
Gotcha. All right, guys. I want to thank the whole panel, everyone in the chat. This was a great discussion tonight. Great show. And we'll see you next week, man. Take care, everybody. Be good.
Yeah, thank you.